screen and LCD repair. Just before we begin, let me intro you to everything that comes in your do-it-yourself kit. Right here we have our flow chart that will walk you through the steps of repairing your device. They are very detailed and also map out locations for you to place your screws and small parts throughout the repair so you can remain organized. We have a standard flathead screwdriver, pentalobe screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, a nylon spudger, and those all come in the kit along with this cleaning cloth. On the side I have a small 2-inch blade Gerber knife and a pair of tweezers, which come in handy. To begin, we are first going to power down the device. Just hold the power button down for a few seconds and slide across. Throughout this repair, we also recommend you use some form of heat gun. We sell these on our website. A average hair dryer can also work and serve that purpose. We also include a SIM card opening tray tool in this kit. Now that our device is powered down, we will first remove the SIM card from the device and begin removing the 2 bottom pentalobe screws. To remove the back, we will simply just slide up and pull off from the top, and there you go. So we're going to first remove the 2 screws holding on to the battery. And then remove the battery. Now the battery is held down by a little adhesive right here, so you are going to have to pry that up. Let's first disconnect it from the logic board. You simply want to use your spudger to pry this up. There's also a grounding clip right here that will come loose once you do this, and we'll set that aside when we do. So here's our grounding clip. Set that off to the side. Now that our battery is unhooked, we'll use our spudger to pry in between the midframe and the battery. You will hear the adhesive releasing as you do this. You just want to be gentle, it's not too difficult. Just kind of pull up like this, and there you have it. Now you have this plastic flap right here. You know, sometimes people use it to pull up and remove the battery. It can rip pretty easily. You know, obviously it's in perfect condition now, but just to get it out of our way, I'm going to fold it over and stick it to the adhesive like that. Now the next step is going to be removing this EMF shield right here. You have 2 Phillips head screws, so we'll go ahead and do that. And like I said earlier, our flow charts come with small areas for you to place these screws, shields, and other small parts to keep them organized and in the same place. So now you'll see here, this is the charging port and dock connector assembly flex cable. It comes up from under the phone and attaches to the logic board right here. We're going to use our spudger tool to pop this connection off. There will be adhesive under this cable right here, so you're simply going to peel it back and fold it over. You can use the other end, it really doesn't matter. So that's unconnected, so just peel it back like this and fold it over. Now that will expose the logic board right here and then also the vibrating motor right here. The next thing we're going to do is pop off this antenna right here. This is the service antenna. You do want to be careful with this. It is a small round clip that can be bent fairly easily, but it's also a fairly easy thing to do. So we'll just use the spudger and pop it off just like that. It folds around this screw right here and through this clip. So we'll use our spudger to get that off just like that. This will now allow us to remove the bottom speaker right here, which is held on by 2 Phillips head screws, one right here and one right here. So we'll go ahead and remove those now. Now under this screw, there's a small triangular piece of plastic. It simply serves as a washer slash wedge to kind of keep everything tight in here. You will pull that out with the screw. Use my tweezers here to show you. And that is kind of what that piece looks like. Now we'll remove the bottom speaker. As you can see right here, it has clips that move under the frame. Those will simply pull up. You can use your spudger, your fingers like that, and just bend it out like that. So now what we're going to do is remove the upper EMF shield. This shield covers the connections for the screen, the camera, power button, and proximity sensor flex cable, as well as the front-facing camera. It has 4 screws, Phillips head screws, one right here, right here, right here, and right here. What I like to do when I remove these screws is do it, from left to right, and then leave them in that line moving across on your flow chart. That way you know which screws go where when you come back and put it back on. These 2 screws, by the way, the upper one and the farthest left, are larger than these 2. So now we're going to go ahead and pry up this EMF shield. The EMF shield has 2 small clips that go into here. Those slide right out. And then one right here that moves under this cable and pops in right here. There is a little adhesive on the back side of this EMF shield right here, which keeps it, stuck to this cable. So just be careful of that. You can use your spudger like this and just pop it out right here. Just like that. And so now you'll pull it up and remove your EMF shield. Now to uncover one last antenna right here, this is your Wi-Fi antenna, you're going to have to remove this one Phillips head screw and this one clip that covers it. Now I like to use my tweezers here just to get under it and pull it up just like that. And there's your one last clip. Now the next step is going to be unconnecting each connection on the logic board and then removing the logic board. Like I said, you have your Wi-Fi antenna right here, or Wi-Fi flex right here, your LCD and digitizer connections, camera, your front-facing camera, the audio, and then under it is the power button. I'll do the camera first. It just pops right out like that. Now you want to be careful when you're doing this. On the underside of all of these, there are a lot of very small electronic jumpers that are micro soldered to the logic board. There is always the possibility that you can knock one of these off with your spudger. That's why you want to be very careful removing these connections. So we'll remove the digitizer connection right here. Just pops off like that. LCD pops off like that. Do the Wi-Fi antenna. As you can see, it's the same circular connection as the one below. And then we'll do the 3 right here. There's 1, 2. And then you can see right here is the 3rd one underneath this cable. So we'll get that. So now that you've done that, you can begin removing these screws to remove the logic board. Now there are 5 screws, 2 flatheads and 3 Phillips head screws. The 2 flatheads are here and here, and we'll remove those first. Now on our flow chart where you can lay your screws down, we also have images that tell you where you can put your flatheads and where you can put your Phillips heads. Now the other 3 screws are the Phillips heads, which are right here, and it's under this film. We will remove that here shortly. Here and here. So first, we can take our tweezers and peel back this film. Now as you can see, this Phillips head is holding down another grounding clip right here. And so that'll come with it when we remove the screw. We'll set that aside with it. And there's your clip. Okay, so now we've removed all of the screws from the logic board. We are going to be very gentle removing this from the phone. This is the one part of the phone that you do not want to mess up. It is the brains. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab it from the bottom, close to where the battery comes off, and we're going to open it kind of clamshell-like, and then pull it out. You can push these connections aside and remove it just like this. So there's your logic board for your iPhone 4S. Just a note, there is a small piece of rubber right here on this edge. If that falls off, that's okay. You can just put it back on. It's merely meant to protect the edge of the board from the cables right here, just to prevent any disruptive abrasion. So once we've removed that, we'll set that aside. The next step is going to be loosening the screws to remove the screen. Now there are 4 screws in the corners. One here, which is under another similar black film as this Phillips head was. One here, and one here. So we're first going to remove those 4 screws and set them aside. I'll remove this film. These black stickers, it's okay if you dispose of them. They're not entirely necessary when you reassemble the phone. You want to be patient with this. These are very small screws, and you don't want to force anything. So you just want to take it easy. Now there are 6 more screws along the sides of the midframe that have washers behind them that are holding the connecting pins of the screen to the midframe. Now those 6 screws are right here, 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 right behind the vibrator, here, here, and here. Now it is not necessary to remove these. We are simply going to give them a twist or two to loosen them up. We'll do these 5, and then we'll show you how to loosen the one behind the vibrating motor. Okay. So now as you can see, the vibrating motor is not attached to anything. It merely has a little bit of adhesive on the underside of it. The way the vibrating motor works is it has these 2 contact points, which are wedged between the frame and the logic board when the logic board is down. So to get behind it, we're going to use our heat gun. This is a standard heat gun. We actually sell these on our website, but any normal hair dryer will suffice. We're simply going to give a little heat to the vibrator to loosen the adhesive up, and then we will use the Phillips head kind of as a lever to move it out of the way and loosen that screw. So we'll just give a little bit of heat here. Just like that. Now we'll take our Phillips head, we'll work it in right here, and we'll move the vibrating motor out of the way until the Phillips head screwdriver fits in the screw, and we'll just loosen it up. It's okay if you completely remove this from the frame. Like I said, there's just a little bit of adhesive there, and you can simply put it back on when you're ready if it comes off. So now it's time to remove the screen. There is adhesive right here on the top and right here on the bottom. Now with the 4S, the home button is not attached to the frame. So the home button is actually going to come off with the screen because it's adhered to the back of the screen. We will use the original home button on the new screen when we place it. And we'll show you how to do that in a second. Now to make it much easier when removing this, we're going to heat the edges of the iPhone and loosen up that adhesive. So you just want to give it a little bit of heat here. Now I'm going to use the 2-inch Gerber here to get between the midframe and the screen. You can also use this Isesimo pry tool. They both work just as fine. In both we offer on our website. I'm going to use the Gerber here. Now you will hear the adhesive prying up. I like to begin down here by the home button, and it's actually, this one's going to come off fairly easy. Just want to be careful with it. Now this phone has a little tape over it because the shards of glass are coming out, so you do want to be careful. A lot of times if it's severely broken up here, or down here, the glass will come out of the frame and stick to the adhesive under it, but that's not very difficult to remove. So you just kind of pull it out here, and there you have it. Your original screen, your LCD and your digitizer cable are fed through this hole, and your home button's right here. Now, when you remove your screen, if you do have any glass left over here, or anywhere around the top, you want to remove that, and you want to make sure that this base stays as clean as possible. Now to make that easy, we don't have much here, but to make that easy, I'll show you how. There is adhesive right here that you can easily remove with your knife or your pry tool, and just peel that right off. And this is the best way to pull glass off the frame when there is some. You want to make sure that this is as clean as it can be before putting the new screen on, otherwise it will not fit properly. And you know, it is glass, you know, so just a disclaimer, you want to be careful. There's always the potential for cutting yourself with that glass, as well as any knife or blade you may be using, such as this. Now another question you may be asking yourself is, you know, what to do with the home button. And also an extra thing is this circular base that goes around the front-facing camera. You know, it's not entirely necessary, but we like to, you know, return the phone to its original perfect condition. We're going to pop that off, and we'll reseat it back in the frame around the front-facing camera. The front-facing camera doesn't really move around that much, but you know, it's always nice to adhere to the details. Now the last part is the home button. So simply push through, and you'll see that it's got this rubber skirt around it. And we sell these home buttons on the website as well with the rubber skirt. Like I said, it's different from the iPhone 4, where the home button is part of the frame and sticks out of it. The other thing besides the rubber skirt to keep in mind is this little square plate on the back of the home button. This is also different from the iPhone 4. This is what makes contact between the button and then also this button right here that actually does the snapping when you push down on it. So we'll take our home button here. We'll take our new screen. We'll pull up the protective film, and we'll be sure to reseat this in perfectly so the square is just right. And you just press it on in there. Rub the adhesive a little bit, get it stuck in there, and there you go. So we'll flip that back over just like that. All right, so now you have a protective film right here. You're gonna wanna remove that, and it's protecting the LCD on the back side. Once we do that, we're gonna begin feeding the screen back into the mid-frame. So we'll go ahead and remove this protective film. You can see your brand new LCD right there. And I just do want to make a quick note. The LCD and digitizer for the iPhone 4 and 4S come together as one piece like this. They are manufactured like this. And so they are different from the 3G and 3GS where they are separate, and you can repair those two things separately. But here it is one full assembly. So the first step is going to be taking your LCD and your digitizer cables and feeding them through this hole in the mid frame right here. Now I do want to make a note that this digitizer cable right here has a small loop on it. Now it is common that this loop can get caught when feeding through the hole, so we want to be very careful that it's fed all the way through, because these cables are the exact same length. If you feed them through and seat the screen and they're not the same length, the majority of the time it is because this loop has been caught between the midframe and the screen. So we're going to feed these through like this, being gentle with them. And I like to go and start with the top 2 pins. Now, if it is getting caught, you can always hold the screen and midframe like this and use your spudger to push this down, making sure that it goes all the way through the midframe. So there, you can see that they're still the same length, so that means the loop has not been caught. Now we're going to start feeding the pins through and making sure they're all in a line. Now, when placing these pins back under these screws and washers, you do want to make sure they are behind both screw head and washer. Technically, it's okay if they're in between the screw and washer, but like I said, we return every phone to its original condition, so we're going to want to make sure that those pins are behind the washers as well. So this is a process that you do kind of want to be careful with. And I just like to work my way down. And there you have it. You've got the pins all fed through correctly, and you've got the screen sitting flush. Now it is gonna pull in tight when you screw in those screws. So if it's got a little wiggle, that's not a problem. When you tighten those screws, the screen will fall right in place. So now we're just going to reverse the steps on our flow chart and go in the opposite direction we came. Now with the screws, the best way to do it is to put these 4 Phillips head screws in the corners in first before tightening the 6 on the side. The reason is, if you tighten these 6 first, sometimes the pins can be a little misaligned on the corners and it is very difficult to insert these 4 screws. So we like to do the 4 corner screws first, and then we'll tighten it up along the sides. So like I said earlier, you do want to be patient with this. These are small screws, so just take your time. And as you're doing it, it's also always good to look and make sure the screen is flush with the frame. Okay, now we've got all 4 corner screws in. Let's go ahead and tighten the 6 side screws. You can simply push this back into place. You want to make sure that this is over the frame so the screw threads through both. Okay, and so there you have it. You've got your screen seated nice and tight. Everything looks flush, and so let's continue. So now it's time to put the logic board back in the phone, just the opposite of the way we removed it. We're going to put the logic board in through the top first and then lay it down. Like I said, we want to be careful with these cables as we do it. You do not want to get these caught under the logic board and accidentally press down. So you want to be careful that these are above it before you do that. So we're going to go ahead and lay the phone down flat. We'll slide this right in here, just like that. So as you can see, you've got the top in like that. You've got the cables above it. Your cables right here are doing just fine. You want to make sure that it goes, you want to push forward and down, but you want to be gentle. You don't want to accidentally press too hard on this logic board with something stuck underneath it and damage it. Now, the first screws we're going to want to put in are the flathead up here, and this is the one you want to be most gentle with. You know, you want the logic board to be seated just right at the top, and be slow when you're screwing in this screw, because if anything's stuck underneath it or it's not in properly, you can easily damage it. So we'll take our first flathead. We'll put it through the logic board like so. You want to be slow and make sure that it's nice and tight, but also make sure that nothing feels different when you're screwing that in. Since we're already holding the flathead screwdriver, let's go ahead and put in the other flathead screw down here. Now, if at any point in time you're having trouble threading this for the first time, a neat little trick is to use your Phillips head and kind of balance it over the thread and do like 1 or 2 turns. We'll use the flathead to get it nice and tight. Perfect. So now we'll screw in the 3 Phillips heads. Let's go ahead and grab our ground clip that we removed from here, just like so. So let's grab one of our Phillips head screws. And put that back in. There you have it. You've got your logic board back in. Everything's looking good. Now let's put these connectors back on. We can put the camera in first. Just kind of want to slide it in from the top. Make sure it's down in there. And you kind of just want to feel around and make sure it's sitting right over the connection and just gently push down with your thumb. We're going to do that for all of these connections. You should hear a clip every time you do it. You don't want to force it because damaging any of the teeth on the connection can ruin the phone. There you go. Let's do this one right here first. Let's do the power button right here. Now on the 4S, because this is underneath this one, there is it is pretty easy to not seat this fully. And when you power the phone back on, it is possible that the power button wouldn't work. Really, it's only because this isn't connected all the way, so it's a simple, pulling it back off and putting it back on. Get this last one right here. And there you go. Now we can put this clip over the antenna right here. Slide that right back in. Screw that on. Now, before we put the EMF shield back on over here, let's go ahead and put the bottom speaker in and clip this back in, and then the battery. So that way we'll be able to test it without putting these EMF shields back on. And if there's a problem, you'll already have them off, and it should be a quick fix. And now you're going to want to put your bottom speaker in bottom first and then push it down. Now, like I said, these clips right here are kind of like little springs. They're going to go under this ledge right here. So you're going to want to be gentle and use your spudger to push those down. So we'll go in bottom first like this. Now you can see that there's a clip right here pushing up against the logic board. We're going to use our spudger to push that down. You can see it's already sliding in. So we'll go ahead and make sure these are out of the way, and there you go. It sits right in there nice and snug. So we'll take these screws, we'll do the one on the left first, and get the small triangular piece of plastic, they're tweezers. We'll drop that right in. Now let's go ahead and put this antenna back onto its connection on the logic board. We're going to wrap it just like it was back around this flathead screw and on this side of this clip. Okay, now we're just going to gently move it over, and you can use your spudger, your thumb. You just kind of want to hear a brief little clip. You want to make sure that it's on there, but you don't want to press too hard because there's always the possibility that you could damage that as well. So just be light on that. When you do power on your phone and it says, and you're not getting signal, it says searching, 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 it's very likely that this is just not on all the way. So that's another easy fix, just to go back in and make sure it's seated correctly. So what we'll do is we'll press this flex cable back in and connect it just like that. You'll hear a quick clip. Got that good to go. Let's go ahead and peel this back just like that, and we'll put the battery in and SIM card simply to make sure everything's working correctly. So this, we're just going to drop this in real quick and we'll take it right back out once we test and make sure everything's working just fine. Let's go ahead and test the device. So we've got our Apple logo. It's booting up right now. We'll just mess with the digitizer a little, make sure the touch is working, and you can, a few other tests you can do are, testing the vibrator with this switch or the volume buttons, anything along those lines. As you can see, our home button is perfectly seated. It's making a good click. That means it's in there just right, and there you have it. Let it get everything going here in just a second. So power button, home button working. As you can see, the digitizer is working. We'll wait for the signal to pop up. There you have it. So your antenna is on there perfectly. You're getting signal. And we're ready to finish the repair. Let's go ahead and remove the battery, just so we don't have power to the logic board while we're putting anything in. You can leave it sitting there, that's perfectly fine. We'll first take our upper EMF shield. How you want to do it is take these two small clips, slide them in right here, and remember this original clip was behind this flex cable right here. So we're going to make sure it goes behind it again. You don't want to put it on the other side because it could press through, short the device, and ruin that cable. So we're going to make sure that it goes behind the cable. And it will go ahead and clip in. And there you have it. So that's clipped in. Let's go ahead and put the screws in. Because we went left to right first time, and the screws are going in that direction, let's go the other way. Now let's go ahead and put this other EMF shield back on. Let's go ahead and grab our grounding clip right over the antenna and where the battery screws in. You just want to line it up right over the hole where the screw goes in, so you can do it when screwing in the battery. Like so. So then you can go ahead, press your battery down right over it, just like so.